The first sensation was the taste of copper in my mouth, followed by the dull throb behind my eyes that told me I'd taken a harder hit than my emergency pod's dampeners could handle. As consciousness crept back, I became aware of softness beneath me. Not the cold metal floor of a detention cell I'd expected, but something that felt suspiciously like silk. My eyes snapped open. This wasn't a cell. Hell, this wasn't even close to what I'd imagined an alien prison would look like. The chamber around me was vast with sweeping curves and surfaces that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Tapestries in deep purples and golds adorned the walls, and the bed I lay on was easily twice the size of anything back on Earth, draped in fabrics that caught the light like liquid metal. I sat up slowly, testing my limbs. Nothing broken, though. My flight suit had been replaced with loose-fitting garments in the same luxurious fabric. My heart hammered as I took inventory. No restraints, no bars, no obvious locks on the ornate door across the room. Either my captors were incredibly confident, or this wasn't what it seemed. "You're awake." The voice was melodious with an accent I couldn't place, speaking perfect English. I turned toward the source and felt my breath catch. She stood in the doorway like she'd stepped out of some fevered dream. Tall, easily 6 feet, with skin the color of a twilight sky and hair so dark it seemed to absorb light. Her features were sharp but elegant, undeniably feminine despite the obvious strength in her frame. She wore form-fitting armor that looked both ceremonial and functional, and her eyes were the color of molten gold, and they were studying me with the intensity of a predator evaluating prey. "I'm General Thyra Veltar of the Varex and 4th Fleet," she said, stepping into the room with fluid grace. "And you, Earthling, are no longer free." I found my voice, though it came out rougher than I'd intended. "Well, that's direct. I'm Jackson Cross, and I'm guessing this isn't your standard prisoner of war treatment." Something that might have been amusement flickered across her features. "Prisoner of war?" She tilted her head, the gesture oddly bird-like. "No, Jackson Cross. You are not a prisoner. You are claimed." Claimed. I repeated the word, not liking how it sat on my tongue. "Like property?" "Like a prize," she corrected, moving closer. Even without the armor's bulk, she would have been intimidating. Not just her size, but the way she carried herself. Like violence was always an option, but rarely necessary. "Among my people, when a warrior defeats an enemy worthy of respect, they may choose to claim rather than kill. It is the highest honor we can bestow." Honor. I laughed, but it sounded hollow in the ornate chamber. "Right. So I'm your trophy?" Her golden eyes narrowed slightly. "You are under my protection, my responsibility, and my possession. You will want for nothing, face no harm, know no hunger or cold or fear. In return, you belong to me." The casual way she said it, like she was discussing the weather, sent a chill down my spine. "And if I refuse this honor?" "Refuse?" For the first time, she looked genuinely puzzled. "Why would you refuse? Your alternative was death in the void. Your ship was destroyed, your emergency beacon disabled. I saved your life. By making me your pet. By making you mine." The distinction seemed important to her, though I couldn't grasp why. "You will learn our ways, Jackson Cross. And in time, you may even come to understand why being claimed by a Virexan general is a fate many would envy." She turned toward the door, then paused. "You may explore this section of the ship, but do not attempt to leave it. My guards have orders to ensure you remain safe." The way she said safe made it clear that wasn't the only word she could have chosen. As the door sealed behind her with a whisper of displaced air, I sank back onto the impossibly soft bed and stared at the ceiling. Claimed. The word echoed, in my mind like a challenge. "Well then, General Thyra Veltar, let's see how well you handle a human who doesn't claim easily." 3 days passed before I saw Thyra again, though I wasn't exactly alone. Her guards, tall, imposing figures in dark armor, stationed themselves at discreet distances whenever I ventured out of my chamber. They never spoke, never interfered, but their presence was a constant reminder of my situation. The section of the ship I was allowed to explore was impressive, training rooms with equipment I couldn't begin to understand, a library filled with crystalline data storage units, and observation decks that offered breathtaking views of the stars. Everything was designed for beings larger and stronger than humans, but there was an undeniable elegance to it all. I was examining some kind of tactical display when she found me. "You're restless," Thyra observed, entering the war room with that same fluid grace. Today she wore simpler attire, still form-fitting but more practical than ceremonial. It did nothing to diminish her commanding presence. "Restless?" I turned to face her, noting how the blue of her skin seemed to shift in the ambient lighting. "I'm a pilot who's been grounded and a free man who's been claimed. Restless doesn't begin to cover it." "Free." She repeated the word like she was tasting something foreign. "Tell me, Jackson Cross, what did your freedom on Earth truly mean? You flew missions into hostile space, faced death daily, answered to commanders who saw you as expendable. How is that freedom? Because I chose it." The answer came immediately, though her question stung more than I cared to admit. Every mission, every risk. It was my choice to take. And now? She moved closer, close enough that I could see the subtle patterns in her skin like intricate tattoos that shifted with her movements. "You eat the finest food, sleep in luxury, face no danger. You are protected, valued, treasured. Yet you call this imprisonment." "Because I didn't choose it." "No," she agreed, surprising me. "You didn't. But choice, Jackson Cross, is a luxury your people seem to worship above all else. My people understand that some things transcend choice. Duty, honor, destiny. And which am I supposed to be?" For a long moment, she studied me with those molten, gold eyes. "I'm not certain yet. Perhaps all three." Something in her tone made me reconsider my approach. "Tell me about claiming. Really tell me. What does it mean to your people?" She seemed pleased by the question, settling into one of the larger chairs with unconscious grace. "A Virexan warrior spends their life seeking worthy opponents. Most, we defeat in battle and move on. Some we must kill to protect our people, but occasionally—" She paused, searching for words. "Occasionally we find someone whose defeat would be a waste. Someone who fights with honor, who thinks cleverly, who refuses to yield even when beaten. So you collect them? We preserve them. Claiming is not slavery, Jackson Cross. It is recognition of worth. A claimed one becomes part of the claimer's household, their legacy. They are protected, provided for, and—" She hesitated. And they may, in time, choose to accept the bond willingly. When that happens, they become more than claimed. They become bonded, equal partners in all things. The implications hit me like a physical blow. You're talking about marriage. Not as your people understand it. Bonding is deeper. It is choosing to intertwine your fate with another's, to make their victories yours and their failures your responsibility. I stared at her, this alien warrior, who spoke of destiny and bonds with such conviction. And if the claimed one never accepts willingly, then they remain claimed but never bonded. They live well but never truly live. There was something almost sad in her voice. It is not uncommon. Have you ever bonded with anyone? No. The answer was immediate, definitive. I have claimed 3 others over the years. 2 accepted their place but never sought more. The third, she trailed off. What happened to the third? He died in battle, fighting beside me to protect the ship. His choice in the end. She stood abruptly, as if the memory was too much. Come. If you insist on being restless, let us see if Earth warriors fight as cleverly as they fly. The training room she led me to was vast, with surfaces that seemed to adjust to our presence. Thyra moved to a weapons rack, but I held up a hand. If we're going to do this, we do it fair. No weapons, no armor, just skill. She paused, then began removing her outer garments, revealing the lean muscle beneath. Even without the armor, she was formidable, easily stronger than me, with reach and leverage I couldn't match. Fair? She smiled, and for the first time it reached her eyes. You're half my size, Jackson Cross. Then I'll just have to be twice as smart. We circled each other, and I quickly realized that traditional combat techniques weren't going to work. She was faster, stronger, and clearly trained from childhood in hand-to-hand combat. But I had something she didn't expect: unpredictability. When she lunged, I didn't meet her head-on. Instead, I slipped aside, using her momentum against her, going for pressure points and leveraging body mechanics rather than trying to overpower her. She adapted quickly, but not before I'd managed to put her on the defensive. Clever, she admitted, breathing hard as we separated after a particularly intense exchange. Your people fight like you think, unconventionally. We fight to survive, I replied, wiping sweat from my brow. Sometimes that means breaking the rules. And sometimes, she said, moving closer, breaking the rules leads to something better than either side expected. The air between us crackled with tension that had nothing to do with combat. This close, I could see the faint luminescence in her skin, smell something like ozone and exotic spices. Her eyes had darkened, the gold now flecked with deeper hues. Thyra, I said quietly, what exactly do you want from me? I want, she said, her voice husky, to understand why claiming you feels different than the others, why looking at you makes me question everything I thought I knew about possession and choice. Before I could respond, she stepped back, composing herself with visible effort. Rest well, Jackson Cross. Tomorrow, I will show you more of the ship. Perhaps you'll begin to see it as I do. Not as a prison, but as a home. As she left, I realized that somewhere in the last hour, the dynamic between us had shifted. I was still claimed, still her prisoner in all but name. But now I was beginning to wonder if she was becoming just as trapped as I was. The ship's main engineering bay was a cathedral of technology, with power conduits running like veins through walls that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. Thyra had brought me here as promised, but what she hadn't expected was for me to immediately spot the problem her engineers had been struggling with for days. Your plasma coupling is misaligned, I said, examining the massive energy distributor that fed power to the ship's weapons array. See how the energy pattern is stuttering? You're losing about 15% efficiency. Thyra frowned, her gold eyes following my gesture. Our chief engineer has decades of experience. He assures me the system is functioning within acceptable parameters. Acceptable, maybe. Optimal, definitely not. I studied the alien technology, noting similarities to Earth's experimental fusion systems. Your people design beautiful tech, but sometimes beauty and efficiency don't align. Mind if I take a look? Her hesitation was obvious. Allowing a claimed human to work on critical ship systems was probably against a dozen regulations. But curiosity won out. Show me, she said. For the next 3 hours, I lost myself in the work. The Vyrexan systems were elegant but overcomplicated, designed by people who valued aesthetic integration over practical maintenance. With careful adjustments and some creative rewiring, I managed to boost the coupling's efficiency by nearly 20%. When the power reading stabilized, Thyra's chief engineer, a grizzled Vyrexan with scars across his blue-black skin, stared at the displays in disbelief. How? He demanded, his accent thicker than Thyra's. These systems have been perfected over centuries. Sometimes an outside perspective helps, I replied, wiping lubricant from my hands. Your technology is incredible, but it's designed by people who think like you. Humans, we're good at finding shortcuts. The engineer grumbled but couldn't argue with the results. As word spread through the ship, I noticed the other crew members looking at me differently, less like a curiosity and more like someone who might actually be useful, but it was Thyra's reaction that surprised me most. Walk with me, she said, quietly, leading me away from the bustling engineering bay. We ended up in her private quarters, a space even more luxurious than mine, with viewports that offered a panoramic view of the stars. She poured 2 glasses of something that glowed faintly purple, offering me one. In all my years of command, she began, settling onto a curved couch that seemed to mold itself to her form, I have never seen someone understand our technology so quickly. How? I joined her, noting how the alien alcohol had a warm, spicy burn. Honestly, your engineers are too respectful of the original design. They see a system that works and assume it can't be improved. Humans are natural tinkerers. We can't leave well enough alone. Is that why your species is so chaotic? Probably. I smiled, feeling the alcohol's effects. We break things to understand them. Question authority because we can. Explore dangerous places just to see what's there. It drives most other species crazy. It drives me crazy, she admitted, but there was something warm in her voice. You have been here less than a week, and already you have improved our weapons efficiency, charmed half my crew, and made me question traditions that have stood for millennia. The tradition of claiming, you mean? She set down her glass and turned to face me fully. Among other things, tell me, Jackson Cross, when you fixed our systems today, how did it feel? The question caught me off guard. Good, I guess. Satisfying. I like solving problems. You weren't trying to escape or sabotage us. You simply saw something that could be better and made it so. Yeah, so? So you acted not as a prisoner seeking freedom, but as someone who cares about the ship and its crew. Someone who... She paused, searching for words. Someone who belongs here. The implication hung between us like a challenge. I found myself studying her face, noting the subtle differences from human features, the slightly larger eyes, the elegant bone structure, the way her dark hair seemed to have an inner light of its own. Thyra, I said carefully, what exactly are you suggesting? Instead of answering, she reached out and traced a finger along my jaw. Her skin was warm, almost fever hot, and the contact sent electricity through my nervous system. I am suggesting, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, that perhaps claiming you was not enough. Not enough for what? For this. She leaned closer, close enough that I could feel her breath against my skin, for the way you make me feel when you smile, for how proud I was today watching you earn my crew's respect, for the way you challenge me without trying to diminish me. The space between us crackled with tension. I could smell her scent, exotic, intoxicating, entirely alien yet somehow familiar. Her golden eyes searched mine, looking for something I wasn't sure I was ready to give. This is complicated, I said, though I made no move to pull away. The best things usually are. Her hand slid to the back of my neck, fingers threading through my hair. I have spent my life taking what I wanted through strength and strategy. But you cannot be taken, can you? You can only be won. And if you can't win me, then I will have learned something valuable about the difference between possession and partnership. Before I could respond, she kissed me. It was nothing, like kissing a human woman. Her mouth was warmer, her lips fuller, and there was a subtle energy to her touch that seemed to resonate through my entire body. When she pulled back, we were both breathing hard. That, I said shakily, definitely complicates things. Good, she replied, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I am beginning to think that complications might be exactly what I need. She stood and moved to the viewport, her silhouette outlined against the stars. I have a confession, Jackson Cross. When I claimed you, it was not entirely about recognizing your worth as a warrior. No? No, it was because when I saw you in that crashed pod, injured but still defiant, still ready to fight, I felt something I had never experienced before. Something that made me want to protect you, to keep you close, to... She turned, back to me. To make you mine in ways that have nothing to do with Viraxan law. The honesty in her voice was devastating. I stood and moved to join her at the viewport, our reflections ghost-like in the transparent metal. So what happens now? I asked. Now, she said, reaching for my hand. We see if a human and a Viraxan can rewrite the rules together. As her fingers intertwined with mine, I realized that somewhere along the way, this had stopped being about captivity and freedom. It had become about something far more dangerous, the possibility that two very different beings might actually be perfect for each other. The next few weeks blurred together in a haze of stolen moments and growing intimacy. Thyra would find excuses to bring me to different parts of the ship, and I would find ways to make myself useful, earning grudging respect from even the most suspicious crew members. But it was our private moments that mattered most. She taught me about Virexan culture, their complex honor codes, and the deep significance of personal bonds. I shared stories of Earth, of human dreams and fears, and the restless drive that pushed us to explore the unknown. We sparred in the training rooms, debated philosophy in her quarters, and slowly learned each other's languages, both verbal and physical. The first time she let me see her without her warrior's composure, it was in Ironamide, the early hours of ship's night. I'd found her in the observation deck, staring out at a nebula that painted the darkness in shades of amber and gold. "Beautiful," I said, joining her at the viewport. "My homeworld orbits a star at the edge of a similar nebula," she said quietly. "I have not seen it in over 5 years. Do you miss it?" "I miss the certainty of it, the knowing exactly where I belonged and what was expected of me." She glanced at me, vulnerability flickering in her golden eyes. "You have made me question everything, Jackson Cross. My duty, my traditions, my future." "I'm sorry." "Don't be." She turned to face me fully. "For the first time in my life, I'm choosing my path rather than simply following it. That terrifies and exhilarates me in equal measure." I reached up to cup her face, marveling at the warmth of her skin. "What path are you choosing?" "One that leads to you," she whispered, then kissed me with a desperation that spoke of weeks of restraint finally breaking. What happened next was inevitable, had been building since that first night in the training room. She led me to her private chambers, and in the soft light of alien stars we discovered that some forms of communication transcended species. Her skin was like living silk, marked with bioluminescent patterns that glowed brighter with arousal. She was strong enough to break me without effort, yet gentle enough to worship every inch of my human form. When she whispered my name in her native tongue, it sounded like a prayer. Afterward, as we lay entwined on her massive bed, she traced patterns on my chest with one finger. "My crew grows restless," she said quietly. "They do not understand why I treat a claimed one as an equal. Some question my judgment. Are they right to? Perhaps. By Virexan law, you are my possession. I should not seek your counsel on tactical matters or allow you to work on critical systems. I certainly should not." She gestured at our naked, intertwined forms. But law and wisdom are not always the same thing." She propped herself up on one elbow, studying my face. "You have made this ship stronger, my crew more efficient, and me. You have made me better than I was alone. The feeling is mutual," I said, running my fingers through her dark hair. "But that doesn't solve your problem with the crew." "Actually, it might." Her eyes took on a calculating gleam. "Tomorrow we enter the Corvin system. There are pirates there, raiders who have been attacking our supply convoys. My crew expects a glorious battle, a chance to prove their worth. And you want me to help? I want you to show them what human tactical thinking can accomplish. If you can help us defeat the Corvin raiders with minimal casualties, even my most traditional warriors will have to acknowledge your value." I considered this, recognizing both the opportunity and the trap. "And if I can't? Then perhaps my critics are right, and I have been blinded by attraction to an exotic pet." The words stung, but I understood the stakes. "When do we reach Corvin?" "Space? 6 hours. Then we'd better start planning." The next morning I stood in the ship's war room surrounded by a dozen Virexan officers, all of whom looked skeptical about taking tactical advice from a human. Thyra had introduced me as her strategic advisor, a title that raised more than a few eyebrows. "The Corvin raiders operate in small, fast ships," I explained, manipulating the holographic display to show enemy formations. "They rely on hit-and-run tactics, striking supply convoys and disappearing before reinforcements arrive. Traditional Virexan naval doctrine calls for overwhelming force and direct engagement." "As it should," growled the ship's second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Corvex. We are warriors, not scavengers. Agreed, but warriors can be smart as well as strong. I adjusted the display, showing a detailed map of the Corvin system. Instead of hunting them down one by one, we make them come to us. We fake a distress, call from a damaged freighter, use this ship as bait. You want us to appear weak? Korvex's incredulity was obvious. I want you to appear vulnerable. There's a difference. I highlighted several asteroid fields. When they attack, we'll be ready, but instead of meeting them head-on, we use the asteroids for cover and pick them off with precision strikes. Your weapons are more powerful than theirs, but they're faster and more maneuverable, so we take away their advantage. Thyra studied the tactical display with professional interest. It could work, but it requires perfect timing and coordination. It also requires trusting a human's battle plan, Korvex pointed out. Yes, Thyra said firmly. It does. Are you willing to do that for the good of the mission? The question hung in the air like a challenge. One by one, the officers nodded their agreement, though some looked less than enthusiastic. 3 hours later, as alarms blared and the ship shuddered under enemy fire, I wondered if I'd been overconfident. The Corvin raiders had taken the bait, but there were more of them than intelligence had suggested. Nearly 24 fast attack craft swarming around us like angry wasps. Shields at 60%, called the weapons officer. Multiple hits, on the port side. Execute pattern Delta, Thyra commanded, her voice calm despite the chaos. All weapons target the lead group. I watched from the command deck as the plan unfolded. The Virexan ship, massive and seemingly ungainly, began to weave between the asteroids with surprising grace. Enemy ships that tried to follow found themselves caught in crossfire from hidden weapon emplacements, while those that stayed in open space were picked off by the ship's main guns. It's working, Korvex said, surprise evident in his voice. Their formation is breaking apart. Now, I said to Thyra, hit them with everything. The next few minutes were a symphony of destruction. Caught between the asteroids and the ship's devastating firepower, the raider fleet was systematically dismantled. By the time the last enemy ship surrendered, we had destroyed or captured nearly the entire force, with minimal damage to ourselves. In the aftermath, as the crew celebrated their victory, Korvex approached me with something that might have been respect. Your tactics were effective, he admitted grudgingly. Perhaps there is wisdom in unconventional thinking. Perhaps there is, Thyra agreed, her eyes meeting mine across the command deck. In many things. That night, as we lay together in her quarters, she spoke the words that changed everything. I release you from your claiming, she said quietly. I lifted my head to look at her. What? By Virexan law, I hereby release you from all bonds of possession. You are free to leave this ship, free to return to your people, free to make your own choices. My heart hammered against my ribs. Why? Because I want you to choose me, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Not because you have no other option, but because you want to be here. Because you want to be mine as much as I want to be yours. I stared at her, this incredible woman who had risked everything to give me back my freedom. And if I choose to stay, then we bond as equals. My fate becomes yours, and yours becomes mine. We face the future together, whatever it may bring. I kissed her then, pouring all my answer into that single gesture. When we broke apart, both of us were crying. I choose you, I whispered. I choose us. Then we are bonded, she replied, her hands framing my face. From this moment forward, we are one. As the stars wheeled overhead, I realized that sometimes the greatest freedom comes not from rejecting all bonds, but from choosing the right ones. The Earth Rescue Fleet appeared on our sensors 3 days later, 5 military cruisers bristling with weapons and demanding my immediate release. I stood on the command deck beside Thyra, watching the tactical display as the human ships took aggressive positions around our vessel. Virexan warship, this is Admiral Catherine Hayes of the Earth Defense Force, came the transmission. You are harboring a human citizen taken against his will. Return Commander Jackson Cross immediately, or we will be forced to take action. Thyra's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady as she opened a channel. Admiral Hayes, this is General Thyra Veltar. Commander Cross is under my protection and is free to make his own choices. Perhaps you should ask him what he wants. We don't negotiate with kidnappers, Hayes replied coldly. You have 1 hour to comply, or we will board your vessel and take him by force. I stepped forward, my heart pounding. Admiral Hayes, this is Jackson Cross. I'm fine, and I'm exactly where I want to be. The silence that followed was deafening. When Hayes finally responded, her voice was filled with disbelief. Commander, are you under duress? Has your captor threatened you or used some form of alien mind control? No, Admiral. I'm speaking freely. I've chosen to remain here. That's impossible. You're a decorated officer, a patriot. You wouldn't abandon your duty for alien captors. I'm not abandoning anything, I replied, feeling Thyra's presence beside me like an anchor. I'm choosing a different path, one that leads to something better than either of our species can achieve alone. The channel went silent. I could imagine the chaos on the Earthships, officers arguing, psychologists debating whether I was mentally compromised, military commanders calculating odds of a successful rescue operation. Jackson, Hayes said finally, her voice softer now. I've known you for 10 years. Talk to me. What's really going on? I looked at Thyra, seeing the pain in her golden eyes despite her composed exterior. She had given me back my freedom, knowing this moment would come, knowing I might choose Earth over her. Admiral, I said, what if I told you I'd found something out here that's worth more than going home? What if I'd found a way to bridge the gap between our species, to create an alliance that could benefit both our peoples? I'd say you're either compromised or delusional. Or in love, I added quietly. Another long silence. Commander, step away from the alien and think clearly. Whatever you think you feel for your captor, it's not real. It's a psychological response. To trauma, dependency, fear. It's real, I interrupted. More real than anything I've ever felt. And she's not my captor anymore. She's my partner, my equal, my choice. Sir, came another voice on the Earth channel. Lieutenant Commander, Torres, my former wingman, we're not leaving without you. Whatever they've done to you, we can fix it, just come home. The word home hit me like a physical blow. I thought of Earth. Blue skies, familiar faces, a career and a life that had once seemed important. For a moment doubt crept in. Was I making the right choice? Was I throwing away everything I'd worked for? Then Thyra's hand found mine, her fingers intertwining with mine in a gesture of solidarity and support. I felt the strength in her grip, the warmth of her skin, and remembered everything we'd shared. The conversations that had challenged my assumptions, the battles we'd fought side by side, the quiet moments when we'd simply held each other against the vastness of space. Torres, I said, I am home. Sir, Admiral Hayes, Thyra interrupted, her voice carrying the authority of command. I propose a meeting. You, myself, and Commander Cross. No weapons, no threats, just conversation. Perhaps if you see what we have built together, you will understand. I don't negotiate with what? With a fellow military officer who has earned the respect of her crew and the loyalty of her bonded partner? With someone who has helped forge a connection between our species that could benefit both our peoples? Hayes was quiet for a long moment. 1 hour. Neutral shuttle. You and Cross only. Agreed. As the channel closed, Thyra turned to me, vulnerability flickering behind her composed mask. You don't have to do this, Jackson. You could go with them. I would understand. Would you? No, she admitted. It would destroy me. But I would let you go if that's what you truly wanted. I pulled her close, feeling the solid warmth of her against me. What I want is to show them what we've found together. What I want is to bridge the gap between our species so that others can find what we have. What I want is to spend the rest of my life proving that love doesn't recognize species boundaries. The meeting took place in a small diplomatic shuttle, neutral territory between the two fleets. Admiral Hayes was a stern woman in her 50s, her gray hair pulled back in a regulation bun, her uniform crisp despite weeks in space. She studied Thyra with the calculating gaze of a career military officer, clearly trying to reconcile the alien warrior with her preconceptions about kidnappers and mind controllers. "So," Hayes said, after we'd settled into the cramped meeting, space. "Explain to me how this isn't a classic case of Stockholm Syndrome." "Because," I replied, "I wasn't just a prisoner. I was claimed, which in Virexan culture is more like being adopted into a family. And more importantly, Thyra released me from that claim days ago. I'm here by choice. Choice made under duress isn't real choice." "What duress?" I gestured around the shuttle. "I'm sitting here freely, speaking my mind, defending my decisions. Does that sound like someone under coercion?" Hayes turned to Thyra. "And you? What do you get out of this arrangement?" "I get a partner who challenges me to be better than I was alone." Thyra replied, "I get someone who sees solutions where I see only problems, who brings out the best in my crew and makes our ship stronger. I get—" She paused, then continued with quiet intensity. "I get the other half of my soul." "Pretty words," Hayes said, skeptically. "But words are easy. Actions matter. Commander Cross, if you're truly free to choose, then choose now. Come back to Earth with us, or stay here with your alien lover. But make the choice knowing that if you stay, you'll be declared dead. Your career, your citizenship, your very identity as a human. Gone." The ultimatum hung in the air like a weapon. I felt Thyra tense beside me, saw the pain she tried to hide behind her warrior's mask. This was the moment of truth, the final test of everything we'd built together. "Admiral," I said slowly, "I've spent my entire adult life serving Earth, fighting for humanity's future among the stars. I've never wavered in that commitment. But now I see a different way to serve that future. Human Virexan cooperation could revolutionize space travel, defense, exploration. We could share technologies, cultures, perspectives. Instead of seeing each other as threats, we could become allies. And you think your personal relationship with one alien is going to accomplish all that? I think it's a start, a proof of concept, a demonstration that our species don't have to be enemies." Hayes studied us both for a long moment. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I do." "Then prove it." She leaned forward, her expression intense. "The Virexan fleet has been raiding our outer colonies. 3 settlements attacked, hundreds of civilians killed or captured. If you can arrange a peace treaty, if you can end the hostilities between our species, then maybe your sacrifice will mean something." I felt Thyra stiffen beside me. "Admiral, General Veltar's fleet hasn't attacked any Earth colonies. We've been patrolling the outer rim, hunting pirates and raiders. The attacks came from Virexan ships." "Impossible," Thyra said flatly. "No Virexan commander would target civilians. It goes against every principle of our warrior code." "Then, how do you explain the wreckage we found? The survivors who identified your ships?" A cold realization crept over me. The Corvin raiders. Some of them escaped our attack. What if they're using captured Virexan technology? Hayes frowned. "Explain." "Pirates often use whatever ships they can steal or salvage," I continued, the pieces falling into place. "If they got hold of some damaged Virexan vessels and repaired them, they could impersonate us," Thyra finished, her golden eyes blazing with anger. "Use our appearance to strike at your colonies while we're blamed for their crimes." "If that's true," Hayes said slowly, "then we need to work together to stop them." "Agreed." Thyra's voice carried the ring of command. "But first we need proof. And we need to coordinate our fleets to prevent further attacks." Hayes looked between us, calculation flickering in her eyes. "You're proposing a joint operation?" "I'm proposing an alliance," I said. "Temporary at first, but with the potential to become something permanent. Our species working together instead of at cross purposes." "And you?" Hayes asked Thyra. "What does the Virexan fleet get out of this alliance?" "The chance to restore our honor," Thyra replied, and the opportunity to forge a partnership that could benefit both our peoples for generations to come. Hayes was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing options and consequences. Finally, she nodded. I'll need to consult with Earth Command, but I think we can work something out. Commander Cross, consider yourself reassigned to diplomatic liaison duty. Congratulations, you're now Earth's first ambassador to the Vyrexan Empire. And if Earth Command doesn't approve, then you're still declared dead, and we pretend this conversation never happened. Hayes stood, extending her hand to both of us. But I have a feeling they'll see the wisdom in trying diplomacy before warfare. As we shook hands, I felt the weight of possibility settling around us. We had a chance, a real chance, to build something better than either of our species could achieve alone. Later, as our fleets moved in coordination toward the outer rim, Thyra and I stood together on the observation deck watching the stars wheel overhead. Do you regret it? She asked quietly. Giving up your old life for this uncertain future? I turned to face her. This incredible woman who had changed everything I thought I knew about love, duty, and choice. The only thing I regret is not meeting you sooner. She smiled, the expression transforming her features from merely beautiful to absolutely radiant. Then we faced the future together, as we always should have. Together, I agreed, pulling her close. Whatever comes next, we'll handle it as partners. As if summoned by our words, the ship's communication system chimed with an incoming message. The holographic display showed Admiral Hayes, her expression cautiously optimistic. Ambassador Cross, General Veltar. She began, using our new titles with careful formality. Earth Command has agreed to the Alliance proposal. We're authorized to begin joint operations immediately. Our first target is a suspected raider base. In the Kepler system, intelligence suggests they're using modified Vyrexan vessels to stage attacks on both our territories. Thyra stepped forward, her bearing once again that of a military commander. Admiral, the Fourth Fleet stands ready to assist. Our combined forces should be more than sufficient to eliminate this threat. Agreed. But this operation isn't just about military success, it's about proving that our species can work together effectively. The eyes of both our governments will be on us. I felt the weight of that responsibility, the knowledge that our personal bond had somehow become the foundation for something much larger. We won't let you down, Admiral. See that you don't. Hayes out. As the transmission ended, Thyra turned to me with a mixture of excitement and concern in her golden eyes. Are you ready for this, Jackson? Ready to be the bridge between our peoples? Are you? I am ready to try. With you beside me, I believe we can accomplish anything. 3 days later, our combined fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. The sight that greeted us was both satisfying and sobering. A hidden base built into a massive asteroid, clearly using stolen technology from both human and Vyrexan sources. Raider ships launched from concealed hangar bays, their hulls bearing the distinctive markings of both Earth Defense Force and Vyrexan fleet designs. There's our proof, I said, watching the tactical display. Those are definitely modified ships from both our fleets. The dishonor of it, Thyra growled, her hands clenching into fists. Using our vessels to terrorize innocent civilians. Then let's put an end to it. Admiral Hayes' voice came through the communication channel. All ships execute attack pattern Delta. Show these raiders what happens when Earth and Vyrexan forces work together. The battle was swift and decisive. Caught between the superior firepower of our combined fleets, the raiders were overwhelmed within hours. When the last enemy ship surrendered, both our crews erupted in celebration. Humans and Vyrexans alike cheering their shared victory. In the aftermath, as we salvaged intelligence from the raider base and prepared to escort captured pirates to justice, Hayes contacted us once more. Congratulations, Ambassador General. The joint operation was a complete success. More importantly, both Earth Command and the Vyrexan High Council are impressed with the effectiveness of our cooperation. What does that mean for the future? I asked. It means you two have just proven that an alliance between our species isn't just possible, it's beneficial. Earth Command is prepared to offer a formal treaty proposal, and I'm told the Vyrexan High Council is receptive to negotiations. Thyra's hand found mine, our fingers intertwining as we absorbed the magnitude of what we'd accomplished. "Admiral," she said, "the Fourth Fleet would be honored to serve as an escort for the treaty delegation." "I was hoping you'd say that. Your ship has become the symbol of what our alliance can achieve." After Hayes signed off, Thyra and I retreated to our quarters we now officially shared as bonded partners and diplomatic representatives. The space had been modified to accommodate both human and Viraxan needs, a perfect metaphor for what we were building together. "Do you realize what we've done?" Thyra asked, settling beside me on our shared bed. "We've changed the course of history for both our species." "We've started something," I corrected. "It'll take time to build real trust, real cooperation. There will be setbacks, people on both sides who resist change. But we've proven it's possible." She leaned against me, her warmth a constant comfort. "And we'll be there to guide it, to show others what we've found." I thought about the future stretching ahead of us. Diplomatic missions, cultural exchanges, the slow but steady work of building bridges between worlds. It wouldn't be easy, but then again, the best things never were. "Any regrets?" I asked, echoing her earlier question. "Only one," she replied, then smiled at my concerned expression. "I regret that it took a crashed ship and a formal claiming to bring us together. I would have preferred to meet you under better circumstances." "I don't know," I said, kissing her temple. "There's something romantic about being swept off my feet by a beautiful alien warrior." "Swept off your feet?" Her eyebrows rose in mock indignation. "I seem to recall you putting up quite a fight. Only until I realized what I'd be missing if I kept fighting." She turned in my arms, her golden eyes serious now. "Promise me something, Jackson Cross." "Anything. Promise me that no matter how complicated things get, no matter what challenges we face as we build this alliance, we'll never forget that it all started with us. With two beings from different worlds who chose to trust each other." "I promise," I said, sealing the vow with a kiss. "Though I have to say, calling you just a being from a different world seems inadequate." "Oh? What would you call me?" I pretended to consider this seriously. "How about the woman who captured my heart after she captured my body? The warrior who taught me that freedom isn't about being alone, it's about choosing who you want to be bound to." "Better," she acknowledged. "And you? You're the human who showed me that some things are worth more than honor and tradition. The man who made me want to be claimed as much as I wanted to claim." As we held each other in the soft light of alien stars, I marveled at the journey that had brought us to this moment. I'd started as a prisoner, become a partner, and now found myself an ambassador for a future I could barely have imagined. But more than any title or responsibility, I was simply a man who had found his match in the most unlikely place. In the arms of an alien woman who had taken me prisoner and then set me free to choose her all over again. Outside our viewport, the combined fleets of Earth and Viraxan moved in perfect formation, a symbol of what was possible when different worlds chose cooperation over conflict. And at the heart of it all was us, living proof that love really could conquer, not just all but the vast distances between stars. "What are you thinking about?" Thyra asked, noticing my contemplative mood. "Just all of this. How we went from captor and prisoner to partners in creating an interstellar alliance. It's like something out of a science fiction novel." "Life is stranger than fiction," she replied, "but also more beautiful, especially when you have the right person to share it with." "Indeed." She settled more comfortably against me. "So, Ambassador Cross, what's our next mission?" "According to the diplomatic schedule Hayes sent over, we'll be hosting a cultural exchange program next month. Earth scientists and artists coming to study Viraxan society, and vice versa." "Exciting. And after that?" "After that, we keep building bridges. Keep proving that different doesn't mean incompatible. Keep showing both our peoples that the future is bigger and brighter when we face it together." Thyra was quiet for a moment, then spoke with the conviction that had first drawn me to her. "You know what I think our greatest accomplishment will be?" "What?" "Someday, there will be children, human and Viraxan, and perhaps even mixed heritage, who We'll grow up in a galaxy where our alliance is simply normal. Who will never know a time when Earth and Virexan were enemies. They'll look at us and wonder what all the fuss was about. The image she painted was beautiful and hopeful and worth every sacrifice we'd made to get here. I'd like that, I said. I'd like to help build that future. Then we will, she said with absolute certainty. Together. As sleep claimed us, wrapped in each other's arms aboard a ship that had become home, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them as we'd faced everything else. As partners, as equals, as two souls who had found their match across the vast loneliness of space. The woman who had taken me prisoner had become the woman who set me free. And in freeing me, she had freed both our peoples to imagine a future neither could have achieved alone. It was, I thought, as consciousness faded, a pretty good trade for a crashed ship and a bruised ego.